But then once you start to get to that sort of 6 to 8 mark, you start to see a point of diminishing returns there where it starts to flatten out and sort of plateaus as you get to that higher end of like 15 to 20 sets. Hey guys, welcome to the RMH Project. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing, are you doing too many sets? Now, if you haven't been to the channel before, welcome. My name is Ryan. I'm an ex-NRL player, online coach, and natural bodybuilder. And this channel is all about how to get jacked. Okay, so in this one, as I said, we're going to be talking about sets. Are you doing too many? And another way of explaining that, or another way of defining are you doing too many sets, is junk volume. Okay, but what is junk volume? Now, junk volume generally refers to a set not significantly contributing to muscle growth, especially over a set-by-set basis. Okay, now there was a lot of words in that. To further understand that, we need to understand diminishing returns, okay? So studies have shown that as you add sets, you will generally add or increase the amount of muscle growth that you would get, okay? But this only happens to a certain point. Okay, so you can't just infinitely increase sets and see the same amount of muscle growth per set, okay? As you start to get to that higher end of the sets that you've added, especially per session, you start to see diminishing returns. So you'll get less muscle growth per set, okay? Now, a little graph to give you a bit of an illustration of what this actually looks like. So muscle growth is on the left-hand side there, and then you've got your sets per session on the bottom. So as you can see, as you add more sets per session, obviously at the start you see a lot more muscle growth per set. It is quite effective, but then once you start to get to that sort of 6 to 8 mark, you start to see a point of diminishing returns there where it starts to flatten out and sort of plateaus as you get to that higher end of like 15 to 20 sets. Okay, now this is why, in a practical sense, you would want to make sure that you are spreading your volume out over 2 to potentially 3 sessions per week, okay? So the general recommendations for volume across the week is 10 to 20 sets. But if you are doing that in one session, like you would see with the old bro split, where you would do chest on Monday, back Tuesday, then legs, shoulders, arms, and abs and calves, or whatever they used to do back in the day. I've done it as well, don't worry. But what you would see there is obviously you're only training your muscle group once per week. So if you're trying to get 10 to 20 sets, which is sort of the recommended volume for trying to maximize hypertrophy and maximize muscle growth, if you look at the previous slide, we're looking at around that 10 set mark. We're really starting to see a diminishing return for over 10 sets per session. So trying to get within that optimal range, you'd probably argue that you're probably not getting as much muscle growth as opposed to if you were doing 2 sessions per week, okay, where you're doing 6 to 8 sets, which would sort of get you around 12 to 16 sets per week because you're doing 2 sessions, okay? But those 6 to 8, the amount of muscle growth that you get per set is so much more, and you're getting this sort of like you're maximizing each set that you're doing, okay? And you're doing that twice a week to make sure that you're getting enough volume to really maximize hypertrophy. So that is why I would recommend spreading your volume out across the week, okay? Because as we can see here, per session, when you get to that sort of 10 set mark, you start to see a little bit of a drop off. You're not really going to see much muscle growth over that sort of 10 set mark per set, okay? Now, another thing that you can look to do when optimizing your training is getting to your working weight faster. Now, I see this a lot on the gym floor, especially when it comes to compound exercises, things like barbell bench press, things like bent over rows, squats. I also see this a lot in leg press as well, is that people will add weight as they go through their sets, okay? So commonly, I'll see someone jump on the bench press, they'll do 8 reps at 40 kilos, and they'll do 8 reps at 60, then they'll do 8 reps at 80, and then they'll do 8 reps at 100. Now that 100 might take them nice and close, it might be nice and challenging, it might take them to failure, it might take them sort of 1 rep shy of failure, but it's really challenging, okay? Now for me, only that last set counts as a working set. Those previous sets are just warm-ups that accumulate a lot of fatigue because you don't need to do that many reps. Okay, so what I mean by getting to your working weight faster is, an example would be if your working weight is 100 kilos. So as I said, doing 8 reps for 100 kilos brings you really close to that failure point, okay, for the set. So what you would do is you would do 10 reps at 60, warm up the muscles, get a lot of reps in, but pretty lightweight, so you're not generating much fatigue. And then you would do 5 reps at 80, and then you would do 2 reps at 100. Those last couple of ones, you're just obviously increasing the load a little bit, so it's not much of a shock to the system when you go to do your working weight, plus you're further improving your mind-muscle connection and warming up the muscle as well. Because what is super important, obviously, along with volume for driving hypertrophy, is also your proximity to failure. Okay, so you need to be training within 3 reps or less with shot close to failure. Okay, so if you're anywhere outside of that 3 reps from failure, your set isn't really contributing to muscle growth in any substantial way. Okay, so I would argue that that set is probably very junk-like unless you're specifically using it for a warm-up, which you can see like in that sort of warm-up scheme that I suggested to you there, guys. So yeah, not linearly loading your way up and then sort of stopping once you get to those effective sets, but making sure that every set that you're doing, especially working sets, is contributing to muscle growth. Now, I know a lot of clients that I've helped over the years will see sort of like 6 to 8 working sets for the muscle group per session and think, oh, that's quite low from what they're usually done. But what they haven't accounted for, these are working sets. These are hard sets. Okay, we're not including warm-up sets in this. Okay, so it's not that where you would add weight over time and then you would get to that sort of last set where then that would be the only effective set. No, we're fast forwarding to that last set and then we're doing multiple sets of that last set to make sure that every set that we're doing is contributing to muscle growth as much as it can. And then for the last one, if you're doing all those things, so you're spreading out your volume over the week, if you're making sure that you're not accounting those the warm-up sets as working sets, but you're still unsure of maybe you might have a little bit of junk volume, maybe you just enjoy doing a little bit higher volume work, but you just want to make sure that those sets are still effective, what I would recommend is actually reversing your workout. Okay, so taking that exercise order and literally just flipping it. So your last exercise will now become your first exercise. Okay, so say if you're doing a chest workout, I don't know, everyone starts with the barbell bench press, don't they? And then you go to incline and some type of fly variations. Maybe you finish with a machine chest fly. Okay, you would usually finish that. Start with that machine chest fly. Okay, chuck on that weight. See how many reps you can take to failure. Okay, if you're getting a heap more reps, so say maybe you're getting 20 reps at 50 kilos. You put that 50 kilos in and now you're getting 30 or even 32 reps. Okay, so we're sort of outside that optimal hypertrophy zone. Okay, so you sort of want to have your sets between 5 and 30 reps. Okay, so anything sort of outside that, you're probably not using enough load. Okay, so you'd have to say that those last few sets, that last exercise may be a bit junky and you're probably not getting much muscle growth stimulus out of it. Okay, so that's something that you can try is, take your exercise order, literally just flip it. If you find that you are getting significantly more reps or you're able to lift significantly more load, okay, in those last exercises, then maybe yes, the training that you're doing at the moment, maybe you've got a bit of junk volume in there. You can probably just strip a couple of those exercises out, and you'll still get the same amount of growth, but you won't be in the gym as long. You could save on fatigue and stuff like that, which I would say is better in the long term, because the less fatigue you have, the more weeks you can string back to making sure that you're getting effective training over the course of a training block, rather than accumulating too much fatigue and then training sort of goes to shit a little bit, sleep doesn't go very well. So making sure, that you can get consistent training by reducing the amount of fatigue from not doing too many excessive sets, but not getting as much muscle growth from those sets is probably a good idea as well. So hopefully this has helped, guys. There's a few of these things that I definitely see as an online coach from time to time with people definitely doing a little bit too much volume and not very much effective volume. Okay, so hopefully this has helped, and I'll see you in the next one.